Before we get started, I just wanted to share a quick disclaimer. This podcast is based on my personal experiences and what I've lived through. Some episodes include difficult topics like trauma and abuse that may be triggering for some listeners. If you need support, I've included resources in the episode description. All stories are shared from my perspective, and names, identities, and specific details have been changed or removed to protect the privacy of those involved. Any resemblance to real people or events is purely coincidental. My goal is to help others feel seen, raise awareness, and remind anyone listening that they are not alone.
Hey, no masks, no bullshit, just truth. Nobody tells you that the hardest part of healing isn't just facing what happened. It's realizing how deep it went, how much it got into your bones, and how much it shaped who you are or how much you thought you were anyway. How it silently bled into every choice, every relationship, every part of your life without you even knowing it. For me, not processing that first time that I was abused didn't just leave a scar. It literally rewired me. It dictated the way I loved, the way I fought, the way I apologized, the way I doubted myself, even the way I sat in silence. It showed up in how quickly I said I was sorry, how I flinched at the tone of a voice, and how I second guessed every decision. How I convinced myself that I was the problem before anyone else could. It shaped the patterns I chose. It shaped the friendships I stayed in, and it shaped the way I treated people. And what's so crazy to me is I didn't even realize that this was a thing. I just thought this was life. I thought those choices were mine, and really now realizing all of this, I was just moving from the same place of unprocessed pain. When I finally started connecting all the dots, it was the biggest breakthrough on this whole entire journey. Because in the same moment, like I felt so free and relieved, but I also felt so incredibly hollow. Because if all of that was trauma talking and making all these choices, who the hell was I underneath it? If so much of my life was built on survival, then what parts of me were real? Who was I? And that's like the kind of realization that sets you free but breaks you at the same time. It makes you grieve not just the abuse, but the years you lost to it. The version of you that never got a chance to really even exist. I remember sitting there having these realizations hit me like waves. It was like watching a highlight reel of my entire life. But this time it was through different eyes. Moments that used to confuse me suddenly made sense, and reactions I hated myself for having had a reason. Patterns I thought were flaws were actually just wounds talking. I felt this mix of anger and grief, but it was such a relief. It was relief that I wasn't fucking crazy. And relief that there was an explanation that maybe, just maybe, I wasn't broken and I was just traumatized. And let me tell you, there's a big difference. That difference, though, it just doesn't come easy. Because as freeing as it was to understand myself, it's gutting to realize how much of my life had been stolen, how much of me has been stripped away by something that I didn't ask for. And that's where I want to start in this episode. When I finally understood how deep it went, I couldn't unsee it. It wasn't just in a big, obvious place. It was in the small, subtle ways I moved through every single day. It was how I would triple text a text before I hit send, terrified of sounding wrong, or it was how my body would tense up in an argument because of the words that were being said. Well, not because of really even the words, it was the tone of the voice, or how I would apologize before even asking a question, or how I would explain myself 2, 3 times when there was no explanation even needed. And that's like abuse that's still living inside me. It doesn't just stop when the relationship ends. It doesn't vanish when you leave the house or when the bruises fade. It lives in your nervous system, in your reactions, in the way you brace for impact in safe places. It shows up everywhere. In parenting, when my kids cried or threw a tantrum, it wasn't just, I wasn't hearing them. I was hearing echoes of how I was yelled at or dismissed or punished for having my own emotions. My body would want to shut down fast, not because of them, but because of what it was triggering inside of me. And I always would have to catch myself, and I would have to remind myself that this isn't the past. This isn't about me. This is about them needing me to show up differently. And that's the kind of work that trauma forces you into, the constant unlearning, the constant battle to not repeat what was done to me. It's the moment your body remembers a feeling of shame or fear that you haven't felt in years, and you have to consciously override that instinct with love and compassion, something that you really haven't been shown. The trauma, it wants you to shut down with their emotions. I don't really know how to explain what I want to say here. I feel like it's like trauma, it wants you to shut down their emotions because your own were shut down, because that's what it knows. So since my body was wired to shut down my emotions, my reaction is to shut down their emotions. And the healing part of it is choosing to listen and to hold space and to give them what I never had. And in friendships, I stayed longer. In lopsided relationships, the ones where I would give and got nothing back, because somewhere deep inside, I thought that that's just how relationships worked. That love was supposed to feel heavy, like work, like carrying more than your share, just to be enough. And every time I felt drained, every time I thought about walking away, there was a voice inside my head telling me that I was the problem and that I was too much. But that's the thing. That voice, it wasn't mine. It was borrowed from all of these people who broke me. It was a lie that I told myself so many times that I started to believe it. I would convince myself that their emotional absence wasn't a reflection of their character, but a mark of my own neediness. I had learned to equate love with conditional approval, so as long as they didn't leave, I was doing something right. And then in work, I let myself get overextended, underpaid, disrespected. And that's because I was already used to my worth being minimized. I was already used to proving myself twice over to earn the bare minimum. I was used to being told that I wasn't enough. So when a boss overlooked me, or if a coworker took credit for my work, or when I burned myself out trying to carry a team, it felt familiar. Fucking wrong, but it was familiar. But that's what trauma does. It makes dysfunction feel normal. I would find myself trying to anticipate every single need of a superior, just as I did with the people who abused me. The praise that I felt, it was like a temporary reward for an unsustainable effort. My entire professional life was performance, a constant act of proving my worth to avoid a perceived punishment that never came, but it always felt like it would happen. The anxiety, it was like a shadow I carried into every meeting, every project, every late night that I would work. And in silence, when I would be alone, the abuse would still be there in the way my thoughts spiraled, the way I questioned my memory. I would replay conversations like I was basically building up a case against myself. I would literally lie in bed at night and rewrite the same arguments in my head like I was like in a courtroom that didn't even exist. And the fucked up part is I was the judge and the defendant, and I was just condemning myself and doubting myself, punishing myself for things that weren't mine to carry. It was the echo chamber and the mental loop where I was constantly defending myself against imaginary accusations, trying to prove my sanity and my worth to an audience that wasn't even there. And the part that really gutted me is I realized how many times I abandoned myself. It literally broke my heart. Every time I laughed something off that hurt me, or every time I downplayed my needs to avoid being too much, every time I swallowed words I wanted to say just to keep the peace, or every time I believed someone else's version over my own. And that's how abuse left me. That's what it left me with. Not just pain, but habits and patterns and survival tactics that I didn't even realize or recognize that were survival, because it was second nature. That's just what I thought life was. I remember once I went food shopping and I was just standing in the grocery store aisle staring at two brands of pasta sauce, just pasta sauce, and I froze. I couldn't decide, but what's so fucked up is my chest got tight, my palms were sweating, and I stood there literally feeling so fucking ridiculous, because who the hell can't just pick a jar of pasta sauce? But as I stood there frozen, I realized, like, that's what years of gaslighting does. It makes even the smallest decisions feel dangerous. It makes you doubt yourself at every turn. And that moment in the store was the first time I saw the invisible reach of my trauma. The fear of making a wrong choice on something so insignificant was a direct result of being told that my instincts were always wrong, that my decisions were always flawed, and that I was the problem. But it went deeper. In trust, I found myself questioning people's motives constantly. I could never, like, even if someone showed me kindness, I'd be waiting for the catch, waiting for that moment that they would flip. I could never really fully exhale and trust, because I had learned that trust was a setup for betrayal. It was a constant state of hypervigilance, and it's fucking exhausting. I built walls so high and so fast that no one could get in. And then I'd feel fucking so lonely and wonder why I couldn't form a true connection. I was running from the very thing I desperately craved. In intimacy, it didn't matter if someone touched me gently, if they meant it with love. My body would tense so fast at first, and it would brace to protect me because my nervous system, it was trained to expect harm, not safety. It was like my skin remembered the first touch that hurt me, and it has its own memory, its own defense system, and it operated completely outside of my conscious mind. I had zero control over it. My mind could say that this person is safe, but my body screamed, "Get ready to fucking run. Don't let them touch you." And my happiness, I couldn't even relax into happiness because joy felt temporary. Peace, it felt like the calm before the storm. So instead of letting myself feel it, I would sabotage it, or I'd numb myself. I'd run. I'd ruin it in my head before anything could ruin it in real life. I was always waiting for the other shoe to drop. A perfect day would end with me creating a disaster in my mind just to be prepared. My own happiness felt like a vulnerability, a sign I was letting my guard down. Even the smallest routines carried it. I'd rehearse conversations in my own head before they ever happened. I'd plan an escape route in relationships before the first fight. And I'd keep mental notes of every little fucking thing. Not because I wanted to, but because I was so used to preparing for the moment my truth would be questioned. And I feel like not many people see that. And they just say, just move on. But they don't see the ripple effect. They don't see the way trauma gets into your bones, or how much your life becomes shaped by something that you never fucking asked for. It's the invisible reach of abuse. And once you see it for what it is, you can't unsee it. You start realizing this isn't me. This was never me. This was the trauma. This was survival mode, or this was the story I had been forced to carry. And that realization is where the grief begins. The grief didn't just come from realizing that what had been done to me. It came from realizing all of those things that were stolen from me. It stole pieces of my identity. And then I would look in the mirror, and I already couldn't recognize myself, but now I really couldn't recognize the person staring back. And not because I physically changed, but so much of who I was had been molded by fear and survival. I couldn't even answer a simple question: who am I? Because for so long, my whole identity has been about who someone else needed me to be. It stole my self-worth completely. Like, it gutted me. I can't even count how many times I lowered my standards, or how many times I stayed quiet, or accepted less, or convinced myself that crumbs were love. And not because I wanted less, but because deep down I didn't believe I deserved anything more. I internalized their voices so deeply that they were my own voices at this point. And when somebody disrespected me, I didn't think, how dare they? I thought, of course. It stole opportunities I never realized I even had. I passed on things that scared me because I didn't believe that I was capable. I turned down friendships because I thought I wasn't worth somebody else's time. I held back from speaking up in rooms where I had something to say because but I would hold back because my voice in my head told me that nobody wanted to hear it. And that wasn't me. That's the trauma convincing me that I had nothing to offer. And that's sad. And I would think back to the times when I could have stepped into something new, whether it be new jobs or passions, friendships, but I didn't. And not because I didn't want to, but because fear it had rewired me to think safety meant I had to stay small. And the heartbreaking part is nobody around me even saw it. On the outside, to everybody else, I looked fine because I would laugh or I worked, I raised my kids, or I smiled in photos. People thought I was strong, resilient, and more than capable. But the sick irony is, yes, survivors, and I'm fucking strong, but strength doesn't mean you aren't broken inside. Strength doesn't mean that you aren't carrying years of programming that still run your life even when you think you're free. It took me years to realize that the patterns weren't me. They weren't my true nature, that they were just trauma, showing up again and again and again, just wearing different disguises. It got into who I thought I was. It got into how I saw myself and the choices without realizing it. But like I was saying, like when you finally uncover that and you finally see the truth, it's that blessing and that loss, because I like grieving all of the things that I could have had. It was just it's heavy, and it's a process. It touched my dreams. Like there were so many times I wanted things I would secretly imagine for myself, but because the abuse rewired me to believe they weren't mine to have, I couldn't imagine those things. Those kind of lives or those kind of loves, those kind of successes belong to other people, not me. So I literally lived my whole life just playing small without realizing it. I would talk myself out of opportunities before I even tried. And I convinced myself I wasn't ready, or I wasn't qualified, or I wasn't worth the investment. And when I did reach for something, I just sabotaged myself. And not because I didn't want it, but because deep down, I expected failure. I expected loss, or I expected somebody to come along and take it away from me. So I've lived the last 20 years in the safe lane. I stayed in a lane where I wouldn't risk being humiliated or rejected or abandoned. And every time I silenced a dream, or I shrank myself down, or I felt like survival, but really it was just another layer of loss. Because the abuse didn't just steal my past, it stole my future I should have kept believing in. And I feel like that's what really broke me. And all of these realizations just started to click. It wasn't just about what had been done to me, but it was about the way it shaped me and who I became and who I didn't become, or who I never gave myself the chance to try to be. After that unraveling, it was so hollow, like such a profound hollowness. For almost 20 years, my trauma response had been like a ghost inside my body. It had been making my choices, dictating my actions, and shaping my relationships, my future, everything, my entire life. And now that that was gone and I realized it, I was left with this empty foundation. I spent so long reacting to life, I didn't know how to live it on my own terms. I felt like I graduated from a school that I never wanted to attend for a degree that I didn't know anything about. I just graduated with it. And I have no idea what I wanted to do with my life or who I wanted to be or what I actually liked. That felt like a deep sense of grief for all the time I lost, all the choices I never got to make, and all the parts of myself that I didn't even get to know. So it broke me. And it wasn't a one night moment of breaking me. I'd be lying if I said that. It gutted me and it lasted for some time. That I sat in that grief and that pain, but I eventually I decided to view that hollow feeling not as a loss, but as an opportunity. It was a blank slate. And I started small and I asked myself what foods I liked, but just for me. What music did I like when nobody else was around? And I remember the first time I was driving somewhere and I was blasting music in my car after years of being told to turn it down, or you play this too loud, or this music sucks. And I literally had my hand over the volume knob to turn it down after it was blasting. And I froze. And I was waiting for like a criticism that never came. And when it didn't, the sense of like just that freeing feeling, and I turned it up and I cried like I could cry right now, like with over something so like silly to other people and insignificant, was such a profound moment of freedom for me. And it was a moment that I'll like forever cherish, like that moment that I felt, because I felt joy for myself that I have not felt at that point for 20 years. It was like a real sense of safety and freedom. And I let myself make mistakes without the fear of punishment. There was a time I burned dinner and I remember panicking for a second and then stopping because I was expecting rage. But I realized nobody was coming. It was just me, my kids, and ruined dinner. And the only consequence was I had to order pizza. And that simple moment, it was revolutionary for me. It wasn't just the big things. It was the tiniest acts of freedom that cracked something open in me. Like, my favorite thing that I literally joke about all the time is I started eating snacks in bed. Something so harmless to people. And when I make the comment that I love my snacks in bed or I have my snack drawer, so many people think like I'm crazy because I make such a big deal about it. But that first time that I ate snacks in my bed, it was amazing. Like, because for years, eating snacks in bed earned me getting yelled at or disgusted or even worse. I could, if I don't get crumbs in my bed, I'm actually pretty clean about it. But if I did, for whatever reason, I could just brush them off. There was no yelling, no hate, no shame. And I posted a selfie because I felt like it. And for years, if I posted any type of picture of myself, that meant accusations or being degraded or being told I looked like a whore. Or better yet, just because I posted a picture of myself, that meant I was cheating. And I remember posting the first time, nothing came. There was no rage, no punishment, no shame, just me existing in my own skin without permission or apology. And I would catch myself, I would write long text messages over explaining why I couldn't do something for years. Like, had to over explain myself, but I never had to. And I stopped. I remember the first time I did stop. I sent a simple no, I can't today. And the world didn't fucking end. They weren't mad. I didn't owe somebody a 3-paragraph justification to protect my own fucking peace. I was worth having my own peace, my own space. And I started saying what I thought, even if it was small, even if it was just my own opinion in a conversation. But no, typically I would always just stay quiet. I wouldn't speak. I would swallow all of my words to avoid unnecessary mockery or conflict. But now, I don't care if my fucking voice is shaking. I will fucking speak and I let it out. Because if one thing I've learned, and I will say this to everybody until I'm blue in the face, and this is something that is so important, and this is something I teach my kids and I tell everybody: your voice fucking matters. Your story matters. Your opinion matters. Your voice is your power. If you have the right and good intentions, your voice, it fucking matters. It is power. Don't ever let somebody steal that from you or shrink that. I stopped apologizing, like, for anything that I didn't need to apologize for. Like, I remember I used to apologize for being tired. And I stopped. I just let myself be fucking tired without guilt. I didn't explain why. I didn't have to. I didn't push through just to prove something. I remember the one time I was so tired, and normally I would literally kill myself to push through, to prove whatever I was proving because I felt like I had to. And instead I literally just went and laid on my couch. It didn't last very long because I don't really like just sitting still for too long. But to just let myself exist, that it was such a radical, amazing, peaceful moment of stillness for me. Even if it was short-lived, and when I went back to my day, it was because I wanted to. I was still tired, but I got up and started doing things because I wanted to. Even though I was still tired, nobody was telling me I had to. I didn't feel like I had to. I wanted to. And that, making that choice myself, I can't even, there's no words to really describe that, like the impact that had on me. But I decided I liked my music loud. I didn't care if it wasn't cool. I could sleep in on a Saturday if I wanted to, even though I don't. I could. I could lay in bed longer if I wanted to, and I don't need to apologize for it. That's the beauty. It's these small acts of like self-care and choices. They were like the first bricks in my new foundation. And at first they felt insignificant, but it was just my power of becoming who I was against a lifetime of being told that my needs didn't matter. It started with the simple stuff that was never an option before. I would just get in the car and I would take a detour to get to a simple destination like the grocery store, or to any simple errand I had to run. Instead of going from A to B, I would literally take a 30 to 40-minute detour drive, the scenic route, to get there. And I did that because I could. I did that because it was calm. It was a moment for me. It was where I found clarity, and where, even though I still at times felt hollow because I was figuring out who I was, it was moments like that that reminded me that this is my clean break. It's my starting over. It's as sad as it is, it's equally just as beautiful. And it it was like a miracle, to be honest. And I just actively began, I confronted that internal voice, the one that told me that I was too much. And when a new thought would pop up in my head, or a new desire, a new hobby, or wanting to try a different food, or if I wanted to wear something bright or something out of my comfort zone, I didn't dismiss it anymore. I would sit with it and I would ask if it was something that I truly wanted to do, no matter how small. And over time, I was starting to learn how to trust my own gut again, something that had been systematically dismantled over 2 decades. And let me tell you that it it's not a one and done kind of a deal where the trauma doesn't just pack its bags, it leaves once you figure it all out. It's this ongoing process of awareness and of choice. It's the ghost of the past. It still fucking lingers. And even to this day, there's still days when I catch myself triple checking text messages before I send it, terrified that I worded something wrong, or I'll start to over explain myself. I don't know if this one is ever going to stop, but I overthink like crazy. And start to push myself into a downward spiral because of it. But it's stuff that I constantly am working on over time, and I've gotten it insanely more conscious of it, and it's not as frequent. The overthinking, I think I just am used to it. It's a daily thing for me now. But there's still nights that it'll just be silent in my house, and it doesn't feel like peace to me that night. For whatever reason, it it almost feels like I'm waiting for that explosion. I'll get anxiety, like I'll just be laying there and I feel like something is coming that is never going to, but I still get that wave of anxiety. And at first, I don't realize that that's even what's happening. So I'll just be laying there with this really uncomfortable anxiety like feeling, unsure of why I have it until it all clicks. And then I have to go through and remind myself that that's not going to happen. There's no explosion that's going to happen, and that I'm safe. And I got into the whole tapping, the EFT, and that has dramatically, dramatically made a difference in my life. Just the self-talk and the tapping and reminding myself that I'm safe and it's okay and I'm okay. And if somebody raises their voice, my body, I don't know if it'll ever stop doing this, but my body tenses up so fast. Even if it's just being raised, not in an anger, not in a like mad or even any negative emotion. If it's like a out of the blue, just a raised voice that I wasn't expecting, my body tenses up before my mind could catch up to make sense that it wasn't anything bad. It's a lot of little things that'll send me spiraling. And probably one of the bigger things that happens, so I live, or not live, my bedroom is above my garage. So lucky me, anytime a garage bay opens, I hear it, feel it, but I don't care what time of day it is. It could be morning, randomly throughout the day, at night, anytime, doesn't matter. I could know it's going to happen because I know what time my brother would get home from work, or I know that it's about to happen. Once that door opens underneath me, I don't know how to make this not happen, but I flinch. So, like, jolt. I completely, for that split second, jump out of my own skin. I literally jolt in my seat if I'm standing, laying, no matter what it is. It like is a sense of panic instantly. It quickly goes away. It doesn't last. It's like a quick traumatic, I don't know, I can't explain it. I've tried the tapping, I've tried a lot of things, and it doesn't matter. If there's a quick unexpected noise like that, my nervous system is just, it tenses and fears what's coming. My heart pounds quickly right away. It doesn't as bad anymore. It's more just the jolting, but for over a year, it would, every time, my heart rate would skyrocket when I would flinch, and it would, like, my beats per minute would be like unhealthy high for a good like 30 minutes after. Even though I knew why it was happening, and I knew I was safe, I knew I was fine. I knew it was either my dad or brother coming home or leaving, or my brother could literally come up here right now and say, "Hey, I'm going to the grocery store," and go downstairs and open the garage door to leave, and I'll flinch like that. It's gotten better, but it's still something that is a daily thing for me. And I unfortunately have to just deal with that, but that's life. And over time, yes, it still greatly affects me. It has, if I look at myself from a year ago, 2 years ago, until now, it's a 180 how much better it's gotten. But it still is one of those things that's deeply rooted in my nervous system. But it's just, it's a lot of little things. And I'll catch myself even apologizing out loud for no reason at all. Someone, do you know how many times somebody bumps into me at a store or anywhere that I am and I say sorry? Like, why do I do that? But it's muscle memory. It's the survival mode still living in me. And there's times that I'll catch myself, I'm scanning people's, like, their tones mid conversation, and I'll be dissecting every word, their pauses, their looks in their eyes. It's like I'm trying to read a language that only I understand. And it's, I don't know. And the another one that's big for me is like the sound of my phone, like the notifications, no matter if it's the middle of the night or early in the morning or midday. If my phone, if somebody is calling me a bunch, or if for whatever reason all of the apps on my phone decide to send a notification at once that I didn't realize was a thing, I had them on like a timed delivery. And when they would all come in, it would be like 10 o'clock, I think they were all coming in. So I'd get like 40 notifications at once. And the anxiety that used to cause me, like, it caused me to disassociate. I would shut down, and I didn't know why for the longest time. I had not a clue. And when I realized, like, that's what it was, it, I don't even know the words that I can't even express, like, how putting together, like, why I was disassociating and why I was acting the way I was for over a year, to realize I wasn't crazy. Like, I was being triggered by, to other people, something so minuscule and insignificant. But for years, my phone, like, being blown up, it was me being abused. I was being harassed, stalked, bullied. Like, I don't even, I still get like that from time to time. So I'll, like, if I could feel it happening, I'll literally just put my phone on do not disturb so I don't get the notifications and only the important ones. And I go through, I have so many of the unnecessary notifications and things I don't need to get notifications on. I have those turned off. So it's still like me, like, figuring out what works for me, but I'm aware of it now. And that connection, that realization, although it's hard to deal with still, it's still very, I don't even know the word to use. It's relief. It's that's not even, that's an understatement, really. But to know that, like, most importantly, I'm not crazy, but there's a reason to, like, understand, like, what is triggering me directly is huge for me, because a lot of having CPTSD, like, they call it complex CPTSD for, or sorry, complex PTSD for a reason, because the complexities to they go deep. And a lot of times I would be in these spirals that would then lead into a number of things, like, but the biggest one would be disassociating completely, and then isolating, and I shut almost myself out. I would go quiet, and I would have no clue why. And wouldn't just happen like a light switch. It gradually got to that, where it would start weeks prior, before I would even be fully in this isolated, disassociated state. And then by the time I realized it, I would be like, holy crap. And then I would have to, like, figure out why I got like that. And sometimes I didn't figure it out until months later. Something else would happen and I would connect the dots, and then I would be like, oh, holy shit. That's what happened. And there's a lot of aha moments that are shitty, but it's the relief that comes with it is huge. And realizing I'm not broken, it's something tangible that I could work on. Those triggers, like, honing in and, like, figuring out how to make things not so triggering is something to work with and on. So it's a lot and it's exhausting, but I can say it's been a slow process. But when I look back to when I initially, like, realized all of this, and when my healing journey started, I could I could cry. Where I am now, how far I've come and how much healing I've done, and how much of me that I have found. But, like, I've changed so many traumatic experiences and my reactions that were deep within me drastically. Yes, I still have subtle things that happen, 100%. I do. I have so much more healing to do, but although it's been a slow, slow journey, I still have accomplished and have, like, so much, and I've come so far. And I am so fucking proud of myself. So that's one thing I have learned, is to give myself grace. That's what everybody should do. Not even just people that have been abused, just in general. People need to learn to give themselves grace and acknowledge everything that you have done, and not focus on all of the things you still haven't done or haven't finished, like, fully accomplishing yet. Like, we still deserve to get credit where credit's due. It is draining. I won't say it's not. There are days where I really, I could just say I have a pity party with myself, like, because I get mad that this is my life. I have to undo things that I didn't ask for. But then I tell myself, like, being abused isn't okay. There's no excuse for it at all. Nobody deserves that. And it's wrong on every level. There's no exception for it. And although I didn't deserve to be abused, I didn't deserve a lot of the things that did happen to me, I do take full responsibility and accountability for the parts that I played in it, because I made the choice to stay long before it hit that point where I couldn't leave. I overlooked things that I, in some situations, knew I was overlooking, with red flags and things that didn't sit right. And I minimized my gut when I shouldn't have. And I stayed in situations way longer than I should have, long before it hit this point of being too scared to get out, before some of the manipulation came, where I knew better. But it was on a level of the red flags I did not think would lead to the abuse that it led to. If I would have known the first time, it would be different. Maybe. I don't know. I can't say what would have happened or what didn't happen. But I could only say that I can speak for my own self in this too. Like, I take accountability where accountability needs to be taken on my part. And even though it is draining and I have these pity parties, I feel those feelings, but I quickly remind myself that I'm not trying to blame people for the life and the journey that I'm on, because it's not going to change the past. And as cliche as people probably think it is to say that everything that I've gone through, I view it as it happened for me, not to me, because thinking that all of these things happened to me, I feel that it identifies me as those things, and I don't want that to be the case. I'm taking this as an opportunity, as a clean slate and a blank slate, and it happened for me. Why? What can I take from all of these shitty experiences and learn from it? What can I do with it? And that's what I'm doing now. I'm just taking my darkness and turning it into light. It's a negative thing to talk about, but it's so fucking important. Not only is it important for the awareness, but it's important for all of the people who are either still in it, just got out of it, and like they're in the thick of it. Like, to know that you're not alone is huge. I wish I had somebody like me. And I'm sure there are plenty of people out there that do speak about abuse, but I didn't find somebody in all of the times that I was looking that broke it down the way that I'm trying to. I feel like some people either skipped on things, or they didn't break it down in a way that I was able to sit there and be like, that's why I feel this way, it or the healing journey of like, oh, you have trauma in your nervous system, do somatic therapy or do this X, Y, and Z. It'll help. I know some people might just be able to go and do those things, like, and just it work for them. But I'm not one of those people, especially with having my whole entire being rewired. I need to understand why I'm doing those things. Why does somatic therapy work? Why is the breath work so life changing? Why does meditating do what it does for me? What is it about the tapping, doing these little tapping on certain pressure points? No medicine, no anything else, just tapping my body. How and why is this life changing? I'm the type of person that needs to understand it before I could begin to practice it. I can't just do it and think it's going to work. I don't know. Might be just how I'm wired as a person. I don't think is because of abuse. I think that's just who I am as a person. I need to understand things in order to do them. I need to know the why. I don't know. I just it's a lot. I just know that what what I want for my future, I want it's mine. And I'm learning like what's a version of safety and survival, like are my goals and dreams actually mine, or is it because I was abused and that's why I think I want that? Am I playing it small? Like, I don't know. It's the awareness of it all. And I think that's what I'm like trying to explain. Like, I've thought I had this trajectory of my life of being an insurance agent and selling insurance and all of this stuff, and that's all I know. That's what I've done, and I'm sure that's also a part of life and adulting, and you start a career and it's like tunnel vision, you just do it. But for me, I don't know what I want to do with my life at 36 years old. I Maybe that's a midlife crisis. I don't know, but I feel like because I felt like I robbed so much of my life already and my future that hasn't happened, almost felt like it was robbed from me, that it caused me to sit in this deep thought of why did this happen for me? Why did I go through all of this? What can I do that will make a difference? And that's where I started with my book and this, and breaking things down, explaining the whys behind everything so people could understand it. There's no way I'm the only person that needs to know why do all of these things, why are they going to help us? Especially when you've been abused and your brain is like scrambled eggs and you can't think. So having to like research things to make sense of things, or if somebody says, oh, go do this, to have to figure out even how to do it. How do you do somatic exercises? Where do you start? How do you do breath work? Where do you start? There's so many things that I feel like pop into somebody's head to just have to start taking steps to do it. And they're realistically not that many steps. And to figure out the where do you start isn't really that hard. But for somebody whose brain is like scrambled eggs, those steps, it feels like you're going to college for a 5 year, 6 year, 7, 8 years degree for something smart to just figure out where to start to learn to start doing breath work. That's what it feels like. And maybe that's just me, but I can only speak for myself. But I do know that a lot of people have came up to me and messaged me privately and commented on a lot of my stuff, thanking me for the way that I explained it and broke it down, because a lot of people don't realize these things and why they're happening, or why they're sitting there wondering, why does looking up how to start yoga or any of the number of things that are suggested for trauma healing, why does it feel so difficult? And they don't understand why. But now hearing somebody else explain, like, I see you, I get it, this is why, and then give direction for it, I wish I had that. That's what I wish I had. So to me, that's this happened for me. All of my trauma, every shitty fucking thing that has happened to me is worth exactly that. Somebody else saying to me, thank you. It is priceless. That is priceless to me. I don't know. I feel like I just kind of went on a little bit of a tangent there. I apologize. It's all of the breakthroughs, all of it. All I could say is it's not shiny, it's not perfect. You don't get an instant moment of instant peace. It's a fucking collapse, and I don't know. I've lived on autopilot for years, and after all of it, I'm wide awake, and it's almost like I'm too aware of all of the things now. And the one thing, I guess, where I'll end this, because I went on like my tangent here, but what I want to be brutally honest about for everybody who's listening, who is on a healing journey, who has hit this rock bottom and started a healing journey. People glorify it online. They really do. I feel like everywhere you look on any platform of social media, you see people posting about how amazing their healing journey and how freeing it is and how beautiful. But I want to be very clear, and let's be real here. That's not the truth when you are in the thick of it at all. It is so far from that. And what real healing looks like, it's fucking lonely. Lonely as fucking hell, because you lose so many people, whether it's because you outgrew them or you realized who they were or who you were in that dynamic and didn't want to be, or you even lose just the people who you thought were friends that aren't real friends. And then you also lose people not intentionally, but because you isolate. And it becomes so isolating, so lonely, and it strips you down in ways that you didn't think were possible. There's nights that your chest feels like it's caving in, and There's mornings that you can't even recognize yourself in the mirror. It's it's a constant ache of feeling like you just don't know who you are anymore without your pain. And at the same time, you know that you can't go back to who you were before. It's ugly crying. It's depressing. Your healing journey, if it's a real healing journey, it is fucking depressing feeling when you are in the thick of it. But it's at the same time so rewarding because you know why you're in that moment. You know why you're feeling those things, and you see that light. It might be small, but you know that you're doing all of this and you're sitting in this pain for a purpose. Your intention is clear and you are doing it for you. And nobody is showing up with like a magical fix. And I think that's like one of the hardest parts is realizing that it's all on you and you have to save yourself this time. It's a brutal truth and it's hard, but I remember scrolling online and I feel like it honestly derailed my healing journey for like the first almost 2 months that I would get in this cycle where I would be scrolling on Facebook or Instagram or anything, seeing all of these fucking posts of these polished posts of my healing's beautiful, my healing journey, and they're focusing on all the light of it. And I was sitting in my room like just crying, broken, so hard that I couldn't breathe. So I thought I was doing something wrong or the healing wasn't working but my healing, it didn't look like that at all. But the mess, the loneliness, the raw, gutted feeling, that is healing. That is the fucking work. And that's the truth. And that's what is supposed to happen when you start that journey. It's not pretty, it's ugly, and it's confusing, and it's painful. So, I don't know. In the nights and like the mornings, if you feel like you ever questioning everything, but the fact that you're in that fucking place and you're questioning it to begin with and you're facing it, you're feeling it, you're breaking that open, know that that means that it's working. Because it doesn't look anything like what you see online at all. You're not broken. You're not behind at all. You're doing it fucking right. That's what it's supposed to look like. I see you and you should be proud of yourself. Because I know I am. Take what you need, leave what you don't, and remember, healing doesn't have to look beautiful. It just needs to be real.